When you decide to go with a Monorepo, it's usually for a very good reason. So you normally want to accelerate development and therefore also the go-to-market velocity. But the thing is, just having a good local Monorepo setup and experience is often not enough. Now, when we work with clients, we identify usually 3 major challenges that they might face: speed, complexity, and compute cost. So speed in terms of how fast you can get a PR through all the CI checks into the main branch, and this directly impacts the very productivity. Complexity, because very often you have to account for missing features from Monorepos on CI providers, which results in complex scripts and maintainability overheads. And finally, compute cost, because those custom scripts are usually very static, and so you have to overcompensate and trade off between compute cost on how many machines you set up and velocity depending on how big or small a given PR is. Now, the 2 main things that we have identified, which can almost be like the main pillars of fast CI for Monorepos, is remote caching and the distribution of tasks across machines. Now, depending on your workspace structure, this can help improve your CI speed between 30 and 70%, and at the same time, it can help you reduce CI compute costs between 40 and 75%. So how does this work? Let's have a look. So first, we take our existing NX repo and push it to our remote version control provider, in this case, GitHub. Once we've done that, we can head over to nx.app. You can either create a new organization or just reuse an existing one. Next, you can connect your workspace, and you have 2 different options, either to go through a manual setup or to use the fully automated one that connects to your GitHub account. This will allow you to fetch your existing GitHub repos and then just hit the connect button. This will trigger a new PR being opened on your GitHub repository. And if we head over to the PR, we can see the main changes involved in adding the NX Cloud token and making sure we talk to the correct NX Cloud endpoint. So with that, we are set up and we can just go ahead and merge that into our main branch. NX already has a local computation cache built in. But now that we connected to NX Cloud, it is like connecting these local caches to a central place such that multiple of our coworkers can also benefit from it. But most importantly, our CI systems and every PR that runs on our CI system can leverage that cache to speed up their corresponding runs. In fact, if we delete our local cache folder in our NX workspace and we rerun the build, test, and linting, you can see that some of them are actually being pulled from the remote cache because they have been saved there previously. And this can lead to enormous time savings. For example, on our own NX open source GitHub repo, in 30 days, we save almost 3 years of computation. The biggest gains, though, come when we combine the remote caching with the distribution of tasks. The issue with current CI providers is that they're not really made for Monorepos. In a Monorepo, you don't just run for a single project, but you run multiple targets for multiple projects. In addition, every PR can potentially be quite different. So there might be just a couple of handful projects affected by one PR needing very little computation to make your CI fast. But at the same time, you can have a huge PR affecting a lot of different projects needing a lot of computation to still guarantee fast CI. Now with NX agents, we want to reduce this complexity to a single line of code. Enabling the distribution itself is as easy as enabling this single line of code. So basically run this start CI run command and define the distribute on flag, giving it the number of machines we want to use to distribute our tasks. Notice also how different the CI configuration is. In this case of an NX Cloud setup, we just define what we want to run, and NX Cloud will then use NX to infer via its project tasks how it should be distributed. Once we finished our CI configuration, we can create a new PR to our repository. And if you head over to GitHub, we can see that NX Cloud added a comment in our PR, which you can use to jump to the NX Cloud dashboard to show the in-progress run. On the main workflow on the left-hand side, you can see all the tasks that are being currently processed and those that have not been started yet. And in the center, you can see the tasks being distributed across different NX agents that are being instantiated dynamically. In our configuration, we have given NX Cloud 5 static agents that should be used to distribute our tasks. You can, however, also define them dynamically such that they will be allocated based on a PR size. Also notice the NX replay section, which is the remote caching, which automatically pulls out existing computation that doesn't have to be rerun again and directly hands it over to the NX agents. So what happened here when we enabled the distribution with that single line of code in our CI config? In a traditional setup, you might have quite some complex CI setup to allow for any type of distribution across multiple machines. And the difference is that you need to manage these machines on that specific CI provider, which can also vary in complexity. So with that single line of code in our CI config, we move the complexity of managing these machines from your own CI provider to the NX Cloud infrastructure. Our own CI configuration therefore becomes much less complex, and it rather directly connects to the NX Cloud API, which talks to the different machines and instantiates them based on what NX commands are being run. And clearly it has also access to the remote caching and can therefore speed up all the computation. So you still have your own CI provider, whether that is Circle, GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub Actions, and so on. But the CI configuration is very, very thin. You basically just trigger in a main job the distribution on NX Cloud and give it the commands that need to be run via the NX binary. So the complexity of managing these machines has basically been removed. Now there's one other challenge kind of related to this, which we experience very often, which is running end-to-end tests. Very often end-to-end tests are a huge, big block that is very hard to distribute across machines and therefore takes a long time. Now with the change that landed in NX 18 in combination with the ability of NX agents that can be spin up dynamically based on a PR size, we can now split end-to-end tests into very fine-grained tasks. And these tasks can then be very easily distributed across various machines. You can also see this in action on our previous run if we go into the various run details on NX Cloud dashboard, where we can see that the end-to-end test was split at the file level across various machines. Now there's one more thing. Since we also have the caching hash key, we can very clearly understand and see whether there are flaky tasks in general, in particular end-to-end tasks, which is a very common scenario. So if there is a flaky test, we can automatically rerun it on another machine to make sure we have a clean setup and make sure it passes again. Therefore, again, saving CI computation cost and obviously speed and developer ergonomics. We also put a lot of attention into allowing you to debug and look into what has happened. This is even more important in a Monorepo where you potentially run hundreds of tasks across hundreds of projects. You don't just have one to inspect in your CI log. And so for that reason, you can dive into every run detail and open up individual runs and inspect what has happened there. These logs are even produced at the machine level, so you can also go to a specific agent and look at what has been run on that specific agent. But we also wanted to have the ability that you can go to your main job on your CI as you're used to and have a look at those logs. So what we do is to take all these individual logs produced by these machines and sync them back to your main job on your CI provider, such that if you scroll through that log, you won't even notice it has been distributed across different agents. And we don't just move your logs back to your main CI provider job, but also all the artifacts that might have been produced on one of these distributed machines. And so that allows you to work with them as if they had been produced on your own CI provider. So on our own NX open source repo, we have quite a lot of end-to-end tests and heavy CI tasks. And so by applying these techniques of the remote caching provided by NX Replay and the distribution provided by NX agents, we were able to reduce our CI costs of just running on Circle CI, which would be 6K per month, down to 3.2K per month if we use Circle CI mainly as the trigger for running distribution on NX Cloud infrastructure. So if this sounds interesting, head over to nx.app and get started.